Thanks very much. So yes, I'm Matt. I'm a geek. I play music on the ZX Spectrum, and I've got a couple of tracks to play for you today. But first, I wanted to share a few thoughts about the role of the ZX Spectrum in time travel. So, as we've heard from a few people today, then the thing that really puts a spanner in the works of simple and effective time travel is the whole business of paradoxes. We heard from Chris at the beginning about the grandfather paradox, and well, the idea that there might be this. In some tropes of science fiction, you have where you can't change the past. If you try to kill your grandfather, then something will conspire to make it not happen. And the good news, as far as everyone's grandfathers are concerned, is that this isn't just science fiction. There is a theory out there known as the Novikov self-consistency principle, which says that the universe is set up in such a way as to prevent these sorts of paradoxes from ever occurring. Now, since it's kind of hard to come up with a mathematical model of killing your own grandfather, then a physicist named Joseph Polchinski came up with a thought experiment involving billiard balls. And it's going to be a total faffling, I might just see how this goes. So his thought experiment involving billiard ball, he said, what if you fired a billiard ball into a wormhole, causing it to travel back in time so that it emerged from that wormhole 1 second earlier in time to collide with its former self and knock itself off course so that it never enters that wormhole. Now, clearly you've got a problem there. That's creating a paradox, and it's just creating that out of basic physics. So it seems that time travel's a bit screwed there, right? So, well, not so fast, said two graduate students from Caltech, Fernando Echeverria and Gunnar Klinkhammer, who unfortunately I couldn't find a photo of, but since he has a totally badass name, I like to imagine he'd look something like this. So anyway, in their paper, they said, well, how about if this billiard ball turns out to emerge from this wormhole at this sort of unexpected jaunty angle, and so which means that when it collides with its former self, it doesn't knock itself out of the course of the wormhole entirely, but just alters its path enough to cause it to enter that wormhole at an unexpected jaunty angle, which means that consistency is restored. We've averted the paradox. But the really weird thing is not just that they managed to find this nice, elegant solution for this situation, but after finding it, they then set about analysing other configurations of wormholes and billiard balls to see if there were any that didn't have a nice, elegant solution like this. And they couldn't find any. So, and whatever they tried, there was always a solution. Some cases there were an infinite number of consistent solutions. And if that's the case, then that has some really interesting implications for physics and time travel. Like, could it be that the laws of physics themselves have built into them this sort of escape clause that ensures that there is always a way of getting out of a paradox? And perhaps the fact that we're all here in a stable universe that isn't imploding in on itself means that the solutions have all worked themselves out throughout space and time to always take this path that leads to consistency and avoids paradoxes. So with that in mind, I've come up with a theory of my own. I figured that it's entirely plausible that someone in this room today is going to be inspired by this whole event to go home, go back to their shed and invent a time machine. And now a Terminator from the future is then going to realise that this whole event, and specifically the ZX Spectrum chiptune performance I'm about to play, has a pivotal role in the invention of time travel. And therefore this Terminator is going to attempt to stop this event from ever taking place. And one way it can try to do that is to travel back in time to 1982 to sabotage the original launch of the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. But hang on a minute, you can't just assassinate Clive Sinclair. I mean, he's the man who invented the digital watch. I mean, we're trying to destroy a time machine here, not destroy the very fabric of time itself. So clearly a more stealthy approach would be needed here. So what this terminator decides to do is intercept the plans for the ZX Spectrum's video chip and remove the crucial interconnect that takes the clock signal into the video circuitry. And so what this would mean is that when the prototype Spectrum is put together, then this video chip is fabricated using the photolithographic process that I'm sure you're all familiar with, where the circuit design is transferred photographically onto the silicon wafer. So clearly, when they put this chip together, it's going to result in a non-functional prototype. The development of the Spectrum could be put back by months. It might never become the mass market success that we all know it was. So clearly history has taken a turn from the worst. It's going off in a totally different direction, which is where the Novikov self-consistency principle comes in, because this says that in order to prevent that, to preserve consistency and prevent this paradox from occurring, then the universe has to do something completely bizarre and improbable in order to make sure that history proceeds as intended. And so one thing that it might end up doing is, during this photolithographic process, a speck of dust might fall down in just the right position during this process to cast a shadow at the precise point where where this interconnect was missing, and this bridges the gap in the circuit and means that the ZX Spectrum prototype was able to work after all. So thanks to the Novikov self-consistency principle, the ZX Spectrum was saved, and we can enjoy some authentic ZX Spectrum chip music tonight. So here's a couple of tracks from myself and Factor 6 and TDM, my colleagues at ZX Spectrum Supergroup AY Riders. And by the way, if you think that stuff about the speck of dust was just some rubbish I just made up to fill up a talk, well, it turns out that that's exactly what happened. This is page 74 of the ZX Spectrum ULA book by Chris Smith, who spoke at the Horizons event that Layla presented last year. And you can see that this thing about the speck of dust actually did happen. It doesn't say anything about terminators here, but that is the logical conclusion to draw. So there you go. Right. So here we are. Right. I'll just try this without the video feed, because it's 800 by 600 isn't really that good. Second. Yep, we're back. Right. do. I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you, waiting for your call, baby, night and day. Caught up, I'm tired of waiting on you. It goes by so slowly for those who wait. Those who run seem to have all the fun. I'm caught up, I don't know what to do. Time goes by so slowly. Time goes by so slowly. Time goes by so slowly. I don't know what to do. Every little thing that you say and do, I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you, waiting for your call, baby, night and day. I'm caught up, I'm tired of waiting on you. Every little thing that you say and do, I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you, waiting for your call, baby, night and day. I'm caught up, I'm tired of waiting on you. The telephone, the lights are on, but there's no one home. Being clocked, it's a 1:45, and I'm done. I'm hanging up on you. I can't stay here waiting for you. I know that you're just hesitating. Don't cry for me, 'cause I'll find my way. You'll wake up one day, but it will be too late. I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you. I'm caught up, I'm tired of waiting on you. Every little thing that you say and do, I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you, waiting for your call, baby, night and day. I'm caught up, I'm tired of waiting on you. Little thing, every little thing, I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you, waiting for your call, waiting for your call. I am done, I'm hanging up on you. Right, I think it's time for some gratuitous audience participation. Right, so, what's your time goes by so slowly, 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 so. I don't know what to do. Every little time, so slowly, 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 so. I don't know what to do. Every little thing that you say and do, I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you. You can stop now. And I'm done, I'm caught up on you. Every little thing that you say and do, I'm hung up, I'm hung up on you, waiting for your call, baby, night and day. I'm caught up, I'm tired of waiting on you. Every little thing, I'm hung up, I'm hung up